This is stuff that just looks gross, but if you just accept it for what it is, it's not as bad as you think. So function notation is almost just another way of writing a y. F of x means function of x. When you say that out loud, function of x means that's your independent variable, a function of x's, right? Because the x's is what determines the function, what comes out of it. Okay? Function notation is just another way of writing things, and we'll show you why you write it that way. Is because you can evaluate x's easier and just kind of see things a little bit clearer. Okay? Like this, 2 of 5. But I'll talk about what that means in a second. Okay, so in previous lesson we talked about our graph, order pairs, table values, mapping, and the arrow mapping diagram. Okay, a function from a set D, the domain, to set R, the range, is a relation in which each element of D is related to exactly one element of R. That's a definition of what a function is. We talked about that. Remember, every x can only have one y. So if you have an x that equals to 3, it can't go to 5 and to 7. It can only go to 3. Okay, so remember, every x only has one y. And here is what function notation looks like. F of x. You say this is f of x. Okay, f of x equals 2x plus 3 is called function notation. So why it can be helpful is if I want to think about when x is 5, then I say f of 5. Because I just plugged 5 in for x. That's all it means. Okay, and then 2 times 5 is 10, plus 3 is the 13. So f of 5 is 13. That's a value. That's a point. What is the point? 5, 13. Because x was 5, it kicked out a 13. Okay, look at this. Is there any question on that? Like I said, a lot of people get really confused on it just because it just looks weird. Okay, it's f of x. Looks foreign. So yeah, essentially, like the connection that you need to make, essentially, f of x is another way of writing y. Essentially, f of x is another way of writing y. Okay? Let's get down to some stuff here. That's the lesson right here. Okay, in function notation, f of x does not mean f times x. Okay, it does not mean that at all. It means f of x, which means plugging it in. The name of the function is f. Okay, values of the independent variable represents the inputs. That's your x's. Values of the dependent variable is your outputs. So here's all we're doing, guys. This is it. Let's see if you can handle it. F of 3 for the following function. F of 3 means 3 squared plus 5. That's all it means. So f of, this is a 3. F of 3 then is 3 squared, it's 9, plus 5 is 14. That's all you have to write.
I don't understand why why don't they just put why is it f of?
Function of. Yeah, it's a function. It can be in a certain way, but in shorthand, at least this kind of helps you see when I plugged in 3 for x, I got 14. G of 1. F of negative 2. Negative 2 squared is a positive 4. Good. That's it. G of negative 2. Tricky one here, because you're putting the negative after a negative. So negative minus a negative is a positive. 4 plus 2 is 6. There's a minus there, and we put a negative 2 behind it. Yep.
How did you get 4?
Yeah, negative times a negative is a positive.
No,
Oh, B?
Oh, okay, never mind. I got it.
Got it? Oh, sorry. Okay. So now it gives you to do both functions together. It wants, this is another one, Aiden, where it's helpful. I want f of 0 minus g of 0. So you get this answer minus this answer. Okay, so if I put f of 0 in here, f of 0 is going to be 0 plus 5 minus 4 minus 0. 5 minus 4. 0 plus 5 is 5. 4 minus 0 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. That's what this is. Let's erase that so I can write it all the way out. Yeah. What's that?
Will this be on that quiz?
This will not. 6 and lower. No, 0 squared is 0. To the 0 power would be 1. Yeah, you should think. Say that again? No, it'll probably be just 6. Like I said, it'll be a lot like the last lesson. Okay, a couple more here. We just got these examples, and then we'll be done. All right, so f of negative 3. So you're plugging in the negative 3. Okay, that's cubic, so you got to remember how that's going to work. It's going to be f of negative 3 is 5 negative 3 cubed. Will that be positive or negative? Good. Minus 2 times negative 3, which that's going to be positive, because a negative times a negative. So that's going to be negative 27 times 5 is, what's that, 135? Yeah. Negative 135 plus 6. F of negative 3 is negative 129. The value of f when x equals 2. Okay, so the functions, what do they mean? So this is f of 2, just another way of saying it. Two cubes 8. 8 times 5 is 40, minus 4. F of 2 is 36. The image of 7 under f, again, another fancy way of saying f of 7. So that's going to be, need some help with that one, I think. Yeah, 243 times 5, though. 1,200. What is it? 50? 15. Okay. So 1715 is 243 times 5. Okay. Minus 14. So you get f of 7 is 1701. Okay, the expression f of a, so they just want you to plug in an a there. You can't do anything other than that, and that will just be silly because all it's going to be is the same thing but with a's. 5a cubed minus 2a. That's all you can do. With the 2x, you can do a little bit more because f of 2x, when I put the 2x in, I can cube a 2x. Okay. Cubing that, 2 cubed is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. X cubed. 2 times 2 is 4. So that's what you could simplify that down to. Okay. This is where it gets a little bit messier. Not nice, easy numbers. So let's see, what do you think we do here? So it's going to be p of x minus 3. So these are going where the x's are. Yeah, I got a FOIL. Now you're seeing the part you're probably not going to like. So we got to FOIL that out. Okay, x minus 3 FOILed out, just because we're trying to go a little bit quicker here, is 4 times x squared minus 6x plus 9. I'll distribute the 4 in a second. Distribute the 4, distribute the negative 6. Gives me 4x squared minus 24x plus 36 minus 6x plus 18 plus 1. So all I do is I distributed. Now combine like terms. There's no other x squared, so I keep the 4x squared. Negative 24 and negative 6 is a negative 30. 36 plus 18 is 54, plus 1 is 55. Sure. Like these? Sure. Okay, so the first thing, you have to FOIL this out. Okay, so I didn't do that, but you would just have to go, where? Here? Because you can't push a 4 in when the square's on it. You have to do this first and then multiply the 4 because of order operations. We do exponents first. That's a good question. Okay, so I FOIL this out. X times x, x squared. Negative 3x is a negative 6x. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. I didn't do anything out over here. Then I distributed 4x squared, negative 24x, 36. Distributed negative 6 because there's a minus in front, negative 6x, positive 18. And then I combine like terms to get that there. And we're done with that one. Yeah, that's all you can do. So this would be what p of x minus 3 would be. Okay, so now we're going a little backwards a little bit. So here's your function. It's 10x minus 3. Determine the value of x when your f of x equals 47. What that really means to us is y is 47. So we have to work backwards. We take this and we put it right there. We know f of x is 47, so where there's an f of x, we put a 47, and then we just solve using algebra. Add 3, divide 10. So x would be 5 here. When x is 5, f of x is 47. And then do the same thing for negative 23. Negative 23 equals 10x minus 3. Add 3. Add 3. Negative 20 is 10x. Divide, divide. X is negative 2. When x is negative 2, you get negative 23. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, just got one more thing here. Perfect. Last piece. Consider the function x squared minus 5. Evaluate what f of 4. Again, this means what x is. Put that right there. Okay, f of 4 equals 4 squared minus 5. 16 minus 5. F of 4 is 11. Solve the equation. F of x equals 4. So now we're doing the opposite. 4 equals what we're given. Okay, so Ridge, what would I move first to solve that one there? I'm trying to solve for x. Yep, plus 5. And then now how do we get rid of squares? Good. And then you can put plus or minus 3 like I told you. If you just put the 3 is okay for this. But I've told you when you square root answers, it's plus or minus. And lastly, solve the equation of f of t is 75 where t is greater than 0. So it's telling you it has to be positive. So we're going to go 75 like that. This is where it kind of gives you have to do some radical work here. So it's kind of putting everything together. Again, like Ridge said, we're going to add 5 to this one too. We get 80 equals x squared. Well, 80 is not a perfect square, but we can break that down because we're good at radicals. What's a perfect square that goes into 80? 16, yeah, 16 times 5. This comes out as a 4. X equals 4 root 5. Okay, we sped through that one because of time. You can rewatch it.